Hey there, this is Van Staub, and I work with our IBM business partners on talent management solutions. And today's an overview of Kenexa Talent Management. And really, it's the story of your next great hire. We are all in the business of putting the right people in the right role to produce business value. And sometimes that doesn't always happen. And so our story might also be a lesson in what not to do. So let's introduce our first character. That's Van. Van is a 30-something. He works at an IT company. He's in technical support. He does his job really well. His management likes him. His clients like him. But Van's gotten to a point in his career, well, he's kind of stalled. He doesn't know what to do next. He's hit his peak. And a lot of people have given Van some feedback. And they've said, Van, you should go into sales. You're technical, but you're not too technical. You'd be a really good fit in sales. Well, let's introduce Martin. Martin's in technical sales. In fact, he's a technical sales manager over at IBM. And Martin's looking to recruit talent into his team. He's into creating teams of high performers. And so this is a match made in heaven. All we need to do is connect the dots between Martin and Van. And so our story is going to take a couple of phases, a couple of chapters. And we all know these pretty well. Either you've been through an interview, all of us certainly have probably applied to one job, or you've been on the other side of the table as a hiring manager. And so we'll look at Van's progression through the interview phase, his onboarding with IBM, his growth as an employee in the IBM company, and lastly, we want to deliver business results. The whole point of hiring Van is that he contributes value to IBM and its clients. So let's consider where this all begins. A job posting that Martin puts out there that leads to an interview. And so Martin thinks he's put out a pretty good posting. He's put it on all the job boards, thinks he's got all his bases covered. But you know what? Truth be told, Martin's pretty busy these days. It's the end of the quarter, and he kind of rushed this one. And as a result, the responsibilities, the description, a lot of it just doesn't align with the things that Van's seeing in other job posts, even ones from IBM. So because he's seeing kind of this difference and sees something else that looks like a better fit, he never applies to Martin's post. And as a result, Martin and Van don't ever meet. So strike one against IBM. Let's consider this. Van does apply to this job. He and Martin go through an interview. And they're hitting it off. I mean, these are two technical birds of a feather. Everything's going great. And so Van goes to the next stage. And that's an interview with Mike. So Mike is Martin's counterpart. So every team has a technical manager and also a sales manager. And so Mike, he's not getting the same warm feelings that Martin has. He has some misgivings about Van, and truth be told, Van's making a career change. He's going from technical support to a sales position. And so Mike's gut isn't unfounded, but we need some help. And unfortunately, Mike and Martin go back and forth as to how to get that help and figure out a resolution. But you know what? It takes too much time, and Van takes another job at another company. So strike two to IBM. Now consider this. Van gets through the interview phase. Mike says we're going to give him a chance. There's something there. He's got potential. But you know what? He does have some gaps. He is moving into sales and he has some deficiencies. And because of those skill deficiencies, he's struggling in that onboarding phase. He's not sure where he should invest his time. He's not even sure, with the areas that he is investing, how he scores. But like most businesses that do baptism by fire, Van eventually gets through this, and we get to the same problem, which is he's amassed all these skills within sales, but what's next? He's not sure where to go next, if it's lateral or vertical, or what that role even looks like. And so as a result, Van gets disillusioned, he's disengaged, and the business results that we thought we would see, we're not seeing anymore. And what happens at this stage is that either the business is going to decide to replace Van, or more likely, Van's going to leave on his own. So these are all costly mistakes. And let's back that up with some data. 39% of recent hires would not be rehired. So to say that differently, 4 out of 10 people on Martin's team shouldn't be there in the first place. That's a bad hire decision. The other is that Van's part of this generation called millennials. And they value job experience and job rotation more than they value job stability. And so as a result, this generation has this tendency to move on to the next role in only 2.5 years. And so here we have two things pulling our people away. One is that they shouldn't be in the role in the first place and they leave voluntarily, or they just have a natural tendency to move on. And that has a real business impact. If we think about Van's salary, which for a tech seller might be about $100,000, it costs 2.5 times to replace that. So the business's bottom line has to replenish $250K to get back another Van, and that's in the form of people's time to hire, the resources to do that, the onboarding and training efforts that we go through, and then also possibly severance that is necessary when Van leaves. So these are all really tangible things that impact the bottom line, but there's also intangibles like team morale. So what we want to do is write a better story with IBM. And we do that with the help of IBM Kenexa Talent Frameworks. Talent Frameworks acts as a blueprint to the business. It helps Mike and Martin know what makes a good role, what makes a good candidate. And it also helps Van see where to go once he's inside the company. We can use IBM Kenexa assessments to help Mike to overcome his gut and give him real quantified data whether Van's a good or wrong fit for the company. And then also, everything we do nowadays produces data. And so we want to take that data and use talent insights to understand what makes a good employee, what makes a high-performing sales team. Because once we understand that, we can make mid-performers even better. So let's see now how IBM can help with our story. If you recall, it began with Martin posting a less than stellar job post. What he could have done is use IBM Kenexa Talent Frameworks to select a job from our software industry framework. And of the 120 jobs, Martin's really interested in those jobs that are particularly related to sales. And so what he can do is out of these 14 jobs, he's interested in the technical sales support specialist. This job is the exact role Van's going to be applying for. And so we can use the data that we already have to create a foundation for that job post. And that job post could have description, where in the company it fits, its level of seniority, and most importantly, those job responsibilities, what Van's going to be expected to do. And this gives a common language for not only Martin, but other hiring managers in IBM to post similar jobs and to have a very consistent language when doing so. Next, Martin is going to prepare for his interview. So he can come over and again use IBM Talent Frameworks and begin to search for those sales-related questions. And maybe it's questions related to, tell me about how accurate you are in your sales forecast. What's the most difficult sale you ever closed? Or let's talk about channel partnerships, since that's the line of business that we're in. And so Martin now has a ready-made interview checklist that he can go in and he can actually conduct an interview and possibly even take notes. So this data is helpful, and it's helpful, one, going back to our consistency statement, Martin can repeat this same interview checklist with other candidates, giving a consistent hiring process, or maybe he can pass this along to Mike. And that's important because Mike had his misgivings. And unfortunately, Mike's misgivings aren't really going to be helped by Martin's notes. We need something better. And that better is IBM Kenexa assessments. And as you recall, assessments are like tests. It's like the tests that you took in college of what you'd be a good fit to do later in life. And we're very similar. So we can have numerical reasoning tests. We can have a motivational questionnaire. What gets you up in the morning? Are you culturally a good fit for this company? Or we can get very specific, something as specific as data warehousing concepts or particular programming languages like Java or JavaScript. But Martin's more interested in a generic test, and it's sales. And we have these tests that are focused on selecting candidates. Are they the right fit for this role? And these are in areas that have typically a lot of turnover. So sales might be one of them, but call center or maybe hospitality are other areas where we see a lot of turnover and we want an ability to screen a candidate quickly. And that's what the indicator does. In about 5 minutes, we can give a personality test to see if the candidate is a good fit. And then Mike can go even deeper. He can administer a sales selector. And he can create this test for Van. And what that allows Van to do is via a URL and logged in from his tablet or his phone, he can take this test. It takes about 30 minutes. And it's a barrage of personality questions. It's numerical, cognitive reasoning through spreadsheets and graphs to test his ability to convey difficult information like sales and pricing to his clients, and then also situational judgment tests, meaning that under a difficult situation like an irate customer, what are the best and worst scenarios that Van would choose? And that gives Mike a unbiased look at how Van performs. And the way that that's done is via a report that Mike can receive. So Mike could get the data, and we could integrate this, but Mike's going to look at the PDF version. And what he sees immediately is that, well, Van may not have done really good in the interview, but this data is telling me that he's in the 95th percentile for our salespeople. And so maybe we really need to take a better look at him. And we can dig down into the dimensions that make Van a good salesperson. He has energy, he's got initiative, he's persistent, seems pretty smart. So, something looks like we need to give Van a second chance or at least dig a little deeper. The other thing is, recall that Van had some issues in the onboarding phase. He struggled a bit. And perhaps that's because maybe his situational judgment was just about average. So he's never been in a sales situation. And maybe, and from the data that we have here, it looks like we might want to give him some hands-on training or additional guidance. And that could come in the form of information that we supply in this report. So Martin or Mike could come all the way down to the situational judgment section and look for tips and tricks on how to develop, or we can go back to talent frameworks. Within talent frameworks, we can start looking for those competencies that we want to develop. And let's say, for example, it's sales forecasting. This is one area that Van's going to need improvement in. And it's an area that we can give him some guidance because we can set down the levels of proficiency that we really want Van to develop. So he's definitely going to start on the low levels today, but we expect him to kind of progress to higher levels, and Van can see exactly what the next level consists of, and he's got a really clear understanding of how to progress himself there. And if he needs a little help, we provide that too. So Mike and Martin can give out very specific goals that Van can complete, and Van can take down what he's learned as a result of those goals and post those in something of a one-on-one or performance review. In our one-on-ones, we could also use coaching tips Mike and Martin could apply to their conversations, or Van might select from a series of self-enablement, conferences, books, webinars, all that he could add to his learning plan to develop himself in his spare time. And then when he's done, when he's acquired these proficiencies, he knows where he can move to next. Maybe, like sales, Van wasn't aware that he'd make a good software product manager, but the skills that he's amassed and the levels that he's obtained make it seem like that's somewhere he might want to consider moving next. And now, all of this is producing data. We're producing data from Van's interview, we're producing data from our proficiency levels and data on Van, and then also just the sales information. Van has deals and customers and partners and opportunities. What we want to do is take all that data and derive insights from it. And that's where we use IBM Talent Insights. And so Talent Insights allows us to ask very simple questions. So we can ask something like, what are my employees' performance ratings by location? And what Talent Insights will do is it will select the appropriate visualization based on the data that we have on file. And so we see a really pretty tree graph that tells us the breakdown of rating by the location. And if I want to, I can change that. I don't need to go into the data. I don't have to work in spreadsheets. I can just go ahead and select and change this. And what you may have also noticed that in addition to this graphic changing, the tiles at the top also changed. And what's happening here is Watson's looking for patterns in the data. And it's looking for correlation or looking for outliers, and it's helping us understand insights that maybe we didn't already know. And the last thing is we want to be able to predict. This is one of the most powerful aspects of Talent Insights and Watson Analytics. And that's the ability to put in a business outcome, and if Van's in sales, he's really going to focus on revenue growth or revenue, and we want to be able to understand, well, what drives that? What makes a good salesperson? And so given our data, we can have Watson run an unbiased investigation into that information, and from it we can come away with even more insights. We understand that engagement is driving revenue growth, productivity, and this sales ratio of quote to close. And these are things that Mike or Martin as a business manager can then dig down deeper and understand, well, if quote to close is something that does drive business revenue growth, and I have people that really aren't that great at that skill, this is a way to improve them. And so this is how insights drives not only engagement, but also business results. And so all of these things work together. Frameworks acts as a foundation, assessments acts as a way to keep that candidate engaged, understand their gaps, possibly even produce some data from it, and then we marry that with talent insights to really understand that data and keep track and progress of the business.